Manchester City against Liverpool, probably the pick of the games this weekend. And while neither side might be on top form, the fact that they're defensively weak for a neutral might make it a more exciting game.
Yeah, well, but I think that, people talking about Liverpool defensively weak. Yes, losing Van Dijk's going to cause you a problem, and Fabinho. But remember, 7 of those goals were against Villa.
With Van Dijk in the team.
With Van Dijk in the team. So, we know that Liverpool, that was a major off day. Villa have to get credit for what they've done. They were magnificent on the day. But, we're still talking about a Liverpool team that, with everything that's happened, they've still found their way back to the top, because going forward and what they're doing going forward, and you look at the form of Jota, they're still, for me, the best team in the league. So you'd expect them to be where they are. I expect them to beat them, but because I feel like they're the ones, they've got themselves and their minds back into what they need to do.
The thing is, we can look at Liverpool's defence this season, because they are the second worst defence in the league. But like you said, 7 of those games did come against Aston Villa, but we can't dismiss that, can we, Darren? Given that they were... The goals that were conceded were sort of symptomatic of the weaknesses of Liverpool's team. Yeah,
I mean, I think it really started at Leeds. I think Leeds, the first game of the season, was the one where Leeds kind of carved through Liverpool. Yeah. And I think people went, oh, OK, this is the way you play against Liverpool. And then Aston Villa with the 7. I mean, that is an anomaly, but it happened. So I think defensively, they've not been strong this season. But we've just been speaking about Burnley, Sheffield United. When you've not scored that many goals, but defensively leaking goals, you're going to struggle. But Liverpool haven't got that issue. They might be leaking a few goals at the minute, but the firepower that they've got up the other end of the pitch is, on any given day, Mane can go off, Salah can go off, and Jota, who's come in and been absolutely sensational, will always get them out of trouble. So for me, Liverpool are still the team to beat by some distance, I think.
Yeah, only Spurs have scored more goals than Liverpool this season. But it's so strange to see a side with such a leak. Well, at the top of the table, but of course Southampton playing on Friday night could go top. But yeah, it's amazing that having had what's not been considered a good season, Liverpool find themselves there. Yeah,
that's it, and that kind of points to their overall quality as well. And as you say, I mean, the defensive record is a little bit of an anomaly, but it was creeping in, and I think it's an interesting challenge this season, because especially when we're talking about earlier on in relation to kind of, Solskjaer compared to Klopp in those early days, without Van Dijk and with Alisson having been out of the team, although he's obviously back in it, it's a bit more of a throwback to Klopp's first years, especially the start of 17-18 season, just before they signed Van Dijk, when we knew everything about them going forward, but they were that bit more... You could never completely bank on them in any given game because they were easy to get at the back. Now, I suppose the difference between now and then is at that point in the Premier League, you had Pochettino's Spurs, who were still at their best. You had Guardiola's City on the up, and you had, for that 16-17 season, Conte at Chelsea, who was brilliant for that 1 year. Now you don't have that level of opposition, I don't think, especially with Guardiola maybe kind of almost trying to refashion a new City side. And I think even allowing for those defensive frailties, Liverpool probably have overall the best package, even beyond the fact they're obviously defending champions.
You know what? When you watch the Villa game, and you mentioned the Leeds game as well in the start, we saw this before with them. We saw it with Norwich at the start of the season with this line. And what you do know for a fact is that Liverpool can get it right with the pressing and doing that. But what the Premier League has shown, and you mentioned those teams that were brilliant at the time, the Chelseas and Man City, upcoming Man City and everything like that. But like, if you get it wrong in this league, even against a team like Villa, who stayed up by 1 point, you're going to get hammered. And I think that Liverpool conceding the goals against Leeds like they did, same with Villa, is all that's done. It's come at such an early stage in the season. It's made them understand and realise we've got to make sure that we focus and get ourselves back to where we were.
But talk about Liverpool defensively, because it could very easily be put down to they didn't have Van Dijk. Alisson was out injured, but there have been patterns since coming back from lockdown, and since they won the Premier League last season. The defensive performances hadn't been there, even with Van Dijk and Alisson in the side. Yeah,
but what's happened with Liverpool is that they were so dominant, and we say for 2 years. I know City beat them the year before by the point and that, but they were absolutely like brilliant and faultless and magnificent. You can't expect them to continue to do that and not have a little bit of a spell where it's kind of a little bit wavy, because them, just like City, they're working hard every single day training, and the pressure that they're under. You got to, at some stage, understand that it's going to be a blip. And it's how you come back from the blip. Because I think that Manchester City are in a real trough at the minute. And Liverpool haven't got nowhere near it yet, but Man City have been doing what they've been doing for a few years now. Liverpool are in the ascendancy. So it's going to be interesting to see how Liverpool get themselves going again and see if they can continue to dominate. And this is why, people would say we spent so much time talking about Man United, and the reason why is because of the consistency and the dominance and what it takes for a player to continually have that in your psyche to make sure that you go again. And that is what we're seeing with Liverpool now. When we saw the 7-2, we're thinking, my gosh, Liverpool. But then you see how the players come back. And this is what we're seeing with City. Because I feel with City, there's something happening where it just feels a little bit...
laboured at
Isn't that one of the interesting things about this game as well? We have two teams at very different stages of motivational challenges. So for Liverpool, they've got the challenge of retaining the title, which in the Premier League era, only Mourinho and Ferguson have done. And City and Guardiola have the kind of wider term challenge where it's not just about retaining the title, it's actually about building a new title winning team just after the other. And in the Premier League era, only two have done that as well. Ferguson who did it 3 times and Wenger who did it once.
Yeah.
And it's something that's been very, if you want to go back even further in history, Paisley probably did it, Shankly maybe once, Busby did it, but it's something that's very difficult to do. And it comes back, I suppose, it's just to regenerate a team in that way is extremely difficult. I agree with what Wrighty said there. I mean, I do wonder how. I mean, we can see it from the way Pep speaks, from the way he behaves on the sideline. He's obviously a genius, but can you imagine working with that for 3 years? I mean,
God.
It's tough. The fatigue will get to you.
But it may well change that the more you understand what he wants from you, that the less he needs to explain on a no.
Is there a natural human element though, where no matter how much you know it, you just can't give as much anymore?
I can never forget after the cup final with Sterling.
Yeah.
And he was talking to Sterling about what he should have done and this and that. Yeah. And then when he kind of finished, Sterling went like that. And you think to yourself, if he's doing that after a cup final when you've just won, what's he doing every day? Every day it's the same thing. Is there any time where you can, and I'm not saying that you can't relax, but there's the time you can just just ease it off a little bit. But once you go again. You can't be that much, the pressure being like that tight all the time. It feels like that with City.
Do you know what? If anything, he's probably intensified a little bit because they won the league back to back. But because Liverpool's dominance, he's now trying to find a way. He's now trying to find a way of trying to get past Liverpool again. And then the whole Champions League thing is another issue as well, where he's in some respects trying to out kid himself. Like he's trying to, rather than go at that and then saying, right, listen, this is what we're going to do. This is the way Manchester City play. We've got a blueprint. Whoever we play against, we feel we can go and beat anybody. But he tries to change it way too much. And I think it even started with the Spurs semi-final in the Champions League or quarterfinals, where he allowed them. He tried to leave De Bruyne on the bench. Yeah. So I think all these things he's trying to figure out. How can I get past City again? How can I get over the Champions League hump? Which is, again, on the players are probably thinking, right, we've got to then try to change again. It's got to be draining. It's got to be tough.
I went out for that game and thought, it's all right, I'll just keep up with it on my phone and watch the highlights later. I had no idea what was going on with that game. It's disallowed goals and VAR and all kinds of things going on at the end. But with Manchester, it feels that there's a bit more positivity around Liverpool than there is with City. And it goes back to a point that you were saying about these 3-year cycles in clubs and about having to refresh the group of players. I know you were saying City, one of the best run clubs in the Premier League in terms of player acquisition. Have the players that they've brought in worked, by and large, at Manchester City?
I think it's maybe a bit harsh to say work, because I think what they've tried to do is go a bit younger every time. As in, they're not buying... So say, they're trying to replace Company, but they don't say go for a 26, 27-year-old ready-made Company. They've gone a little bit younger in the hope that these players kind of develop. And I suppose, from a wider business perspective, that's a lot of what teams are doing now, because there's basically more value in buying players in their early 20s and their mid to late 20s. And maybe it's just a slightly longer-term prospect, but in terms of work, I would have some concerns about the defence. And this is actually a longer-running team with Guardiola as well, in that it feels like, they've had about 8-9 major defensive signings there, and very few of them have actually... Kyle Walker would be one of the few to have actually pretty much long-term consistency and to have risen to the level. But everyone else seems to kind of get into this spell where they just have a few bursts, but then they just get into making mistakes. The defence doesn't look as solid with them. But maybe John Stones being one of the classic examples. And now we're going to see how Diaz does in that regard as well. But it would point to questions with Guardiola, particularly in defence.
I think, you know what, when I was watching, seeing Sterling on the left cutting in on the right, and the same from the other side, we're seeing Mahrez coming on the right, cutting in on the left. It's just getting all kind of tight in there again. And I think that I was thinking back to when Sterling was on the right and Sane was on the left, and they had that space, and then they had these spaces for people to come into, and a nice place for the forwards to work in. And it seems to me like everything feels a bit congested.
And it also doesn't help that Aguero's had this long-term injury. Jesus has been out, but did come off the bench and looks like he's coming back to recovery.
Yeah.
Plus, Ferran Torres seems to be hitting a really nice patch of form.
And that's, again, you know, like he looks like a real good player. You know, the main thing with them is, I'll have to go back to what Miggy's saying about the defence. You do feel that there's something not quite right with them once you get, and bam. We've always known that City's main Achilles heel at their defence, and the problem that you used to have was that you couldn't get at them as easy as you can probably get to them now. And again, it comes back to the players having to do the same things again in respect to the work and the closing down, and like, I think that the players, like, you know, someone like Fernandinho, you mentioned David Silva, you mentioned you have to mention Fernandinho company. To replace those players for them to play in the same way, it's very, very difficult. And I don't think Pep has ever been in charge of a team what he's built again. And is he going to sign again in June? It finishes in June.
He keeps saying that he's
hanging over
interested.
everything. Sorry,
you know?
So he does keep saying he's interested, doesn't he?
You know, well, we have to see. You know, do it.
He definitely needs to. I can understand him saying company left, and when you just said there, Miguel, about him buying a little bit younger. But I think that's the one position on the pitch where you need ready-made defenders. You can't kind of gamble and say, oh, in 2 or 3 years' time, you'll be at the very, very best. You need, in that kind of position where you know defensively you're not strong anyway, you need to go and get someone like I'm just giving an example, like a Lewis Dunk, or just two ready-made defenders that are ready to play at a high level, and then you could build a team around it. When you go at the core, your back four or your back three, whatever you play, and they're so inexperienced and they haven't got much Premier League experience.
And the pressure they're under.
And the pressure they're under to win the Premier League, to win the Champions League. I don't think it helps them at all. So I think you'd have to then go back to recruitment.
Yeah, and then he's looking to play Aki in the Champions League and not in the Premier League, who does have Premier League experience. With if the defensive issue is a weakness for Manchester City and for Liverpool, we know who could exploit Liverpool's defence for City. Diogo Jota has come in and just it's absolutely on fire. Do you as strikers, do you enjoy watching somebody coming in and just being on that kind of form and fitting in the way that he's done? Yeah,
Jota, I mean, I've always liked him anyway from when he was at Wolves, and I know towards the end he didn't really play much, but his movement and how quick he is and his intensity, and he's one of them players you definitely look at and think, around better players, he can go on to the next level. And I think he's shown
Wolves
that
have good
quickly.
players.
They have, yeah.
Wolves have really good players.
They have really good players, but not Liverpool's calibre of player. And you look at him now and you think, wow, this already he could be the signing of the season.
What it is, Kels, is that when Liverpool signed Jota, it doesn't make you go, what was signing him for? You go, oh, I get that. I can see that. Because people say he didn't play towards the end so much because they, bringing other people in, Podence and all those kind of guys we're seeing now. But when you see him go to Liverpool and probably go into that changing room area and see what is happening, all of a sudden you can see he's just gone, whoom. And watching him in the last four games, you could see that he's going to be someone that's going to really kick on there. He's going to really kick on.
Would you start him against City instead of Firmino?
Yeah, I would, because I think probably Firmino's form in respect of goal scoring is something that Liverpool need to address and get all three of them doing it. And at the moment, all three of them can do it. I would probably play him. Yeah.
It does really come down to what have you done for me lately, Bob? Put up for me.
You've got to ride the wave.
And the point's often made about Firmino that it's not the main reason he's in the team is to score goals, but it is one of the reasons. And when his goal scoring form is so off, it makes sense that there is somebody within that squad able to do it. What do you think is going to happen? Very briefly.
I think Liverpool will win. I think Jota will score again. He's got to ride that wave. He's playing really well, so I expect Liverpool to win.
Miguel?
Liverpool's well.
No, I was going to go to you last.
Sorry.
You've already said it now.
No, I changed my mind. Come back to me in a minute.
You go up for a scoreline to make it even better.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to go Liverpool 4-3.
Oh.
I'm going to go for Liverpool to win 3-1.
All going for high-scoring games. We've talked about the fact that defences are going to be the weak spot. We talked about some of those strikers who are in fine form at the moment. We're hoping it's going to be a thriller this weekend.